Hello everyone. In the last video we talked about, or I should say we built a very basic instance of OSPF with multiple areas inside of our kind of makeshift service provider cloud. The OSPF instance is going to serve as an underlay for Border Gateway Protocol, which will run on top. We've combined Link Discovery Protocol with the OSPF config that's going to support the MPLS side of the house. But before we get into the BGP, I just wanted to kind of demonstrate a few other pieces with the LDP. So let's get connected to all of our boxes here. And I'll show you what I'm getting at here. So if you recall, we turned on show run section OSPF. We turned on MPLS LDP auto config on the OSPF process, okay? And that, like I said in the last video, that basically doesn't force us to type MPLS IP on all of the participating interfaces or the global config side of it, right? So let's just go ahead and remove it. I just want to show you guys what it looks like the other way. All right, so we're going to do this on all the routers. So we're going to say conft router OSPF 7029, okay? And we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove this. So obviously this is going to break all of the LDP neighbors, right? So we've already gotten a message on router 1. Likewise, we lost both our neighbors on 2 and we lost our neighbor on 3. So as expected, right? So instead of doing that, okay, we're going to do it the other way, which is to manually type in MPLS IP, just to kind of demonstrate that it's an either or thing, but how much more, I guess, painful it is to do it this way versus just turning it on the OSPF process. So first things first, let's go ahead and do, so I'm going to add another command here. So I'm going to do MPLS LDP MPLS IP, what is it? MPLS label range. Okay, there we go. It's been so long since I've done this stuff. MPLS label range. So on router 1, I'm going to put in a range of 1,000 to 1,999. So essentially engulf everything that begins with a 1 to correspond with router 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to issue the same command on router 2, but I'm going to do 2,000 to 2,999, and then on router 3 I'm going to do 3,000 to 3,999. Okay, so I wanted to get that command in there as well, and you'll see why I'm doing that when we do some verification and stuff. So the other thing we've got to do, and just to keep this simple, I'm not going to overcomplicate it, on all the routers in privilege exec, I'm just going to go ahead and type MPLS IP. Okay, then I realized that we don't necessarily need to turn on MPLS on 00 on either one of the routers 1 and 3, but just for a quick demonstration purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and say interface E00, or excuse me, no, I'm good actually. Yeah, so I'm going to turn it on for 01 and 02. Okay, so that's actually perfect. So E01 on all the routers, I'm just going to go ahead and say MPLS IP, and then for interface E02, I'm going to do the same thing, MPLS IP. So what that should give us is, it should give us our neighbors back. Once they come up, we should be able to see that we've got all 3 of our LDP neighbors back. All right. Okay, so it looks like we're good. So I'm going to do show MPLS LDP neighbor on all the boxes. So we can see now that we've got our neighbors back, right? But we did it slightly different way. We did it with the MPLS IP command. So we've got the 2 neighbors on router 2, we've got 1 neighbor on router 1, and we've got 1 neighbor on router 3. So that's a good thing. Let's just, nothing should have changed with our routing table. We still got all the OSPF routes, all that stuff. So we should have full connectivity, ping 10.1.1.1, source it from loopback 0. Okay, so we've got connectivity from 3 to 1, and obviously we should have that reverse connectivity as well. If we trace route to 10.1.1.1, and let's source that from our loopback 0, let me turn off domain lookup. It should get it's a good habit to get into in a lab because it just adds time to the trace routes if you don't. Okay, so I'm going to do it on all the boxes. Conft no IP domain dash lookup. Okay, let's do that trace route one more time on router 3. Okay, so I just wanted to quick talk about this. So when we trace route from router 3 to router 1, and we're doing it from the loopback to the loopback, okay, we see our first hop is router 2. We know because it ends in 2, it sits between router 2 and 3, okay? But check this out. The MPLS label is 2000, okay? And the result, or the reason that's 2000 is because we put the range on router 2 that says 2000 to 299, okay? If we come over to router 1 and we do the trace route to 10.333, sourced from our loopback, check this out. So when we go through router 2, now we've got label 2001. So you can kind of see it's picking labels within the range that we specified. And, for a lab, this is great because if you have a larger topology with a lot of service provider stuff, let's say you're practicing for a service provider exam, whatever the case may be, you've got a lot of stuff going on. This comes in handy because, again, you can kind of see the path it's taking very quickly. It's easily identifiable. So, again, IPs are easily identifiable and so are the labels. So don't kill yourself in the labs. Make your life easy. And use these little tips and tricks to kind of put less emphasis on thinking about IP schemes and all that stuff and more emphasis on actually practicing the technology. So that's one theme I want to kind of get across to you guys is, if you're smarter about your labs, you can be more productive in your learning. So I'm hoping that I'm demonstrating that throughout the course of these videos. So, for all intents and purposes, we can leave the MPLS IP the way it is. I'm fine with leaving it that way. We don't need to do the auto config through the OSPF process, so we'll just leave it as is. I'm fairly confident that we've got all the interfaces. There's nothing that we're going to get hung up on later. It's funny because when I was learning this stuff, many years ago, there was a kind of a common joke, or it was more of a mockery of the CCIE exam where, they used to say they give you a large environment that had MPLS configured on it, and your responsibility was to troubleshoot, stuff that was wrong, right? That was part of the troubleshooting section. So they would purposely leave off MPLS IP off of like one interface in the mix of, 10 routers. And you had to determine or find that problem. Obviously, you had to go through a troubleshooting process to try to find that problem. So it's kind of known that it's a pain to, have to go through all the interfaces and do that. And that's why I wanted to demonstrate the auto config piece, because it kind of simplifies things. But at any rate, we'll end it here, and then we'll pick up on BGP as promised before. So thanks a lot.